Hey guys, happy almost Halloween. This is Callie from Telltale Poetry, and I wanted to talk to you guys about something really spooky, which is submitting your poetry to publishers. When you are trying to place poems in magazines, it's very important to follow a few key rules when submitting. And I'm just going to go over them briefly, but if you guys have questions about how to submit, how to inquire, how to email editors, feel free to email me at hello@telltalepoetry.com and we can chat. Just to give you guys a brief intro into my experience, I had a book published. I've had dozens and dozens of poems picked up by prominent literary journals. I worked on staff for Microcosmos, Kenning, December. So I understand both sides of the process. And so the first thing I want to talk about is, excuse me, actually submitting. So this implies that you have a packet of poems prepared. And just briefly, I want to remind you guys that when you're putting a packet together, make sure to follow their guidelines. So that brings me to my first point, which is when you're submitting, follow their guidelines. So go to the journal you want to submit to. Let's say it's December Magazine. So you just go to decembermagazine.com. I'm going to do it now. And I will walk you guys through the process. So it's actually decembermag.org. So let's say you're going there and you want to submit to December. It's a great magazine. And you're going to go to their submission guidelines, which is right under submit, and all journals will have their own submission guidelines. And so they say that they read general submissions from October 1st to May 1st. They do not consider simultaneous submissions. So you'll see this a lot. And what does it mean? It means that when you're submitting to December, you can't also submit the same poems to Poetry Magazine or to another journal. So the reason for that is some magazines don't like it when you're submitting to multiple places, because what happens? Well, if you get a poem accepted in Journal A, but you still have your poems in Journal B, sometimes Journal B wants to publish those poems. You don't notify them in time. They email you, they're like, we love your poems, and you're like, I'm sorry, they're already published. And so what do? It becomes very difficult to run a literary magazine like that, right? So when you keep wanting to publish work and it's already published, that really sucks. You spend a lot of time on it. So the main trick, and it's not really a trick, but it's to follow their guidelines. So if they tell you no simultaneous submissions, I would suggest that you don't simultaneously submit. Because, you know, in theory, if you did accidentally simultaneously submit, you know, there could be some repercussions. Now, I don't know what a magazine will necessarily do, but they probably won't let you submit there again, and it will look pretty bad. And as you know, the literary community is quite small. So tip number one, if I could, I would have it flashing across the screen, right? Read the submission guidelines and follow them. So it's not enough just that you know them, right? You have to actually listen. And so that's the first tip. The second tip is to make your cover letter personal. So what I want you guys to do when you're submitting is read a copy of the magazine. It makes sense. That's the first step. The second step is I want you to look over the masthead and see who's working on the journal. And then I want you to do a little bit of internet stalking. I'm going to say that lightly because I just want you to go and read their own work and see what they're writing. And then when you submit, I want you to use the editor's name in your cover letter. Dear Jane, Dear Morgan, okay, whoever it is, use their names. Maybe there's 3 people, Dear Morgan, John, and Sue, whatever. And I want you to keep doing that every time you submit. So it adds a little bit of extra work, but it's more personalized. When an editor gets a submission that just says, Dear Editor, they know you didn't read their masthead, and you probably didn't read the journal. So the second thing is, I want you to call out and point out a particular piece from their magazine that you loved. Now, if you didn't love anything, you don't have to do it. But let's say you genuinely loved and appreciated a piece of literature that they published. I want you to say it. Dear Morgan, I loved the story titled The Lottery by Shirley Jackson in your most recent version of American Poetry Journal, American Poetry Review. Obviously Shirley Jackson is a fiction writer, so, but I'm just giving you an example. So pull out something, let them know you read the work, you read their magazine, and then say, I have these poems, and this is why I think they would fit your aesthetic. You don't have to make it long. I would say keep your cover letter between 2 and 5 sentences. Keep it tight, and that's it. And then say, thanks for taking the time to review my work, sincerely, and then put your name, or however you want to sign off, best, or, gratefully, or whatever. It doesn't matter. So that's the second tip, is read the work, familiarize yourself with the journal, familiarize yourself with the editor's work, and make that clear in your cover letter. And the third is about formatting. And I know these seem really simple, but these are also really easy ways for a journal to throw your work out without even really spending time on it. So make sure that you're submitting in standard format. That's Times New Roman, 0.12 font. If they tell you not to put your name on the submission, don't put your name on it. Usually the submissions don't have a cover page. So usually when you submit a packet of poems, you just start with the poems themselves. Each new poem is on its own page. So when they ask for 5 pages, don't put 100 poems in, 2-point font. Use 12-point font, put 1 poem on each page. And I think that will help. These are just really general guidelines to get you over, the fear of submitting. So if you've never submitted before, I want to challenge you today, October 17th, to submit 5 poems to one journal this week, and then email me at hello@telltalepoetry.com and let me know how it went. That's your homework for the week. I wish you luck. If you have questions, I'm always here. Thanks for listening.